My name is Jeremy Lapp, and I'm the director of Witnesses. And about 10 years ago, my producing partner, Jordan, came to me with this book that he had been given by a friend called We Are Witnesses. This book was, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's excerpts of diaries from 5 different teenagers who lived during the Holocaust. One of them is Anne Frank. The other one's Yitzhak Radushevsky. Looked at this book and said this would be a fantastic kind of theatrical event to tell their stories, because most of these stories, are either unknown or their diaries, there's many diaries that were never published based off of what happened during the Holocaust. And so the idea came to us to take all 5 of these diaries and give each one of them to a different songwriting team. So we kind of reached out to 5 different Broadway songwriting teams and said, here's these diaries. Would you be interested in writing a couple songs for them? And so we went about kind of trying to source down these 5 original diaries. And we took out Anne Frank because we thought she was so well known that having her within a group of 5 would kind of overshadow the other 5, who most people have never heard of. So we replaced her diary and then kind of went and sourced the original diaries, and they were kind of hard to find. We spent a couple years just trying to get all of them, talking to Yad Vashem, and kind of, some of these diaries are out of print now, and so they were like $800 to buy the original. So we got all 5 of the diaries and sent them out to these different songwriting teams and didn't tell them kind of what we wanted them to write. We just said, read through the diaries and pick a beginning, a middle, and an end, and write kind of whatever you want from the diary. And so these 5 different teams took individual moments from all the diaries and wrote songs based on their diaries, using the kids' words that they wrote in their diaries. We got all these songs back, and we had about 15 songs, and started to go, this is pretty powerful, what we have here. And so we reached out to a book writer. His name is Robert Friedman, and he was the book writer to A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder on Broadway. He won the Tony Award for that. And when we pitched him the idea, he immediately loved the idea and said, I've been wanting to work on something in this timeline for a long time. So he came on board, and we gave him copies of all 5 diaries, and he started taking diary entries from each of the kids' diaries and kind of creating a book or a timeline for us. And so back in the fall, this past year, we did a 2-week workshop where we kind of got a bunch of actors in the room and started to look at what the show could be, and worked on the music and learned the music. And fast forward to about 3 weeks ago, we started rehearsals for the world premiere that's going to be in Escondido in 15 days. We open on July 15th. And the hope is from here, whatever happens, we'll take it and kind of go on and play other. Hey Elizabeth, this is Jeremy Lapp. I'm the director of Witnesses here at the California Center for the Arts in Escondido. We are so honored and thrilled to be bringing your sister's diary entry into this show and into this production, and just are excited to kind of honor her legacy.
Hi, I'm Natalie. Hello, Alexandra and Elizabeth. I'm the choreographer for the project, and I'm a granddaughter of Holocaust survivors.
Hi, Elizabeth and Alexandra. I'm Camille. I have the honor of portraying Renia, and I'm so grateful to you for letting us have this experience.
Hello, Elizabeth and Alexandra. My name is Priya. I'm one of the cast members here, and I'm so honored to be here and to be telling your stories.
Hi, Elizabeth and Alexandra. I have the honor of portraying Zygmunt, and I'm just really honored to be a part of telling this story.
Too much coffee isn't good.
Hi, Alexandra and Elizabeth. My name is Afra, and I'm playing Ava Heyman in this cast. And I'm just so beyond honored and excited to meet you guys.
Hi, Alexandra and Elizabeth. I'm Kai, and I play Moshe Flinker in the cast. And thank you so much for the light that you've brought to this project, and I'm so excited to meet you as well.
Hi, Alexandra and Elizabeth. I'm Gio. I'm playing David Rabinowitz in the show, and it's really just such an honor to get to be a part of this process, and I'm so excited for you guys to see the show.
Hi, Elizabeth and Alexandra. It's Robert Friedman. We met over Zoom a few months ago. I'm the book writer of the show, and we have a fantastic, talented cast, and I think you're going to do you proud.
Hello, Elizabeth and Alexandra. My name is David, and I'm a part of this cast. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this and to tell these stories.
Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Alexandra. Thank you so much for sharing Renia's story with us.
We are thrilled to be able to get to portray it. I'm Austin. I'm playing Yitzhak in the show, and we've been having a blast putting this all together.
Hi. Hi, I'm Yanni Colby. I'm the music directing intern. Hey.
They said they will never discuss the past.
So that's what I want to say. If anyone asks any question that you don't want to answer, just don't answer it. Don't feel any pressure.
Well, listen, most of us here do answer.
We answer everything. 15 of us to the camps, and today I'm 94. And I'm still walking every day. I got 3 beautiful daughters and 6 beautiful grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. And all of them are very well situated. We know about the Holocaust and everything, your story, only you give us life, not the past. You give us life to live on. And that helps us in our life.
We were completely taken away, everything we had. I mean, I don't know what kind of camp some people were that you could write. Okay, in the real Holocaust survivor camps, you had nothing. You had no writing, you couldn't even write down the dates or anything. I mean,
Depending on where you were.
I mean, you cannot, it is so horrible what we went through that you cannot even explain it, okay? Unbelievable. And the whole world was quiet. I was 14 and a half years old when we were taken to Auschwitz. We were taken in 1944. It's 5 months after that time, we were liberated by the Russians. Jewish people, they started in 1938. When Hitler came into power, they started taking a lot of Jewish people away from home. They did little things, okay, like in 1938, 39. But little by little, by 1944, there were so many killings going on, you have no idea. The chimney was going for 24 hours a day. They gassed the people, and then they burned the bodies, okay? Nobody can imagine what we went through, okay?
I would like to add to Ben, he says he is not living for the past, he lives for the future. I live 2 lives. At night it is the past, and during the day is the future. Because what had happened to me personally and all the other 6 million people who perished is a little
They were
different.
burned, that's what they were.
You know, so it is when you were, it matters age, but no matter, you know, at a certain point, you can never forget to you what happened. You know, the scar is there and it is not healable. It is remaining permanent. That's how we are different. Every night I'm running, I'm in the ghetto, I am in the forest, this was killed, that was killed. By the way, I also have to mention, since I am from Poland and I lived I was born in Bosk, it is near Lvov, what they call today Lviv, but that was Poland where I was born. And unfortunately, we were over 2,000 Jewish people in the city, and we were the only family who survived. That meant my dad, my mom, my sister, my second sister who died in the ghetto because there was no medical help. So it is very, very, you know, emotional and difficult even today, you know. And a lot of people, you know, when we go and talk to the people, you know, how did you survive? Is this really true? You know, how can you make it? You know, we are an inspiration. You change our life forever when we hear your story. So,
Ben, do you have nightmares?
No.
Rose, do you have?
Never.
Lucky.
I don't have dreams from my family or anything.
grandmother had nightmares.
And he
She was in
handed them to me.
Auschwitz in
And I want to say
1943
one
till
thing. When I
liberating.
speak to schools, I haven't got notes. I only speak what I remember. And the reason why I did like that, because when I got married in 1951, I was only 22 and a half, and I got a family right away. Should I live in the past or live for the future? You gotta choose. I'll never forget. Never. Only doesn't mean this. I gotta live with it. I had a brother-in-law because my wife and her sister got married the same day. He died at the age of 55 because he lived in the past. And I learned from that, this do whatever gotta do to keep forward, not backwards.
I want to mention something to that point too, because I've had the privilege of working directly with survivors and their families. And I can tell you that every generation is carrying the story, whether their family spoke about it or not. And the more that everyone comes forward, and the young people, a lot of survivors have told me that they did not begin speaking about their stories until their grandchildren insisted and begged them to start speaking so that they could pick up and teach eventually. And so I am not from a survivor family, but it has been somehow my destiny to be working and being loved and loving, and the most incredible people you'll ever meet are the survivors on our planet, and we're really blessed to have your strength and your kindness and your wisdom. Tell me one thing you can remember, and then I want Ben to tell me, and then Rose, I want you to tell me. So if you think of one thing, I know it's going to be painful. If you wouldn't mind doing it, I would love to hear from you and Ben and Rose, because you need to hear this. Okay, Manya?
But I can many things remember, but the most fearful moment, it was when we were hiding in the forest and we were in a bunker, and for some reason my dad went out, because usually during the day, you know, we never could be visible because they would have found us and killed us. I don't know if you know that the Germans and also the Polish government paid money to find Jews and turn them in. So my dad got out. It was a young forest, and here he walked in practically to German soldiers, and right away, Juden, du bist ein Juden, that you are a Jew. And my father, his appearance did not look like a Jew, and he pointed out and he told them, no, I am a Polak, those are my horses, you know, don't you see it, don't you see it? And we were about maybe 50 feet away or 100 feet away, sitting in the bunker, my mom, my sister, and me, and we started to cry because we could hear everything. And if they would have moved a little bit further, they would have found us and you know, killed us. This was the most fearful thing, you know, and we had many, many more. But I would like to get back to something else, what you may learn, you as youngsters. I attended the March of the Living, my husband once, and I was twice, but those were separate trips. And from the California area, we were about 30 or 40 units, especially the Bay Area. And all those kids were high school kids, and obviously before the trip, they all studied the Holocaust. But studying it or seeing it in a movie is completely different. And what I did see, that when we were on the trip and entered different camps, and how those kids were molded, and looking. We were, for example, in the gas chamber where you could see where the people were grasping for air, they couldn't hold on. And all those finger things are marked in the wall. And they started to cry, that we had to calm the kids down. And when we walked out from the camp to another pavilion, they said they will never ever forget in their life what they experienced. So what I am trying to say, that you have to be on the place. And the same thing with me. When we were marching and holding the Israeli flag, the Jewish flag, and it went through my head that, here we were with one foot in the death and the grave, and now we are here showing the whole world that we survive. They cannot wipe us out. It is in the Bible, we will survive. And therefore, if you will get a little bit older and have kids, hopefully all those, the museums will be, it is very, very important to go not just as youngsters, but also as adults. And you will have a completely different view of what happened during the Holocaust.
All I want to say, I'm a miracle survivor. The reason for that, I got a few miracles happened to me. This only I could understand, or my parents or God itself helped me. We were liquidating the ghetto on August 16, 1943. It was an uprising. People tried to burn houses, and they didn't want to slow down so people could run away to the forest. Because we lived not far, and was another deportation in February 25 of 1943, so we built the hiding places. All the family, 6 families were in hiding places built in the cellar of the house because there was no basements, there was no refrigeration. And we felt the smoke, so my uncle and his son and me, we went out to check, and the Germans were waiting for us in the march to the outside of the city, where trains were waiting for us to take us. We were over 50,000 people at that time, so you can take in one day. On the 3rd day, came a few officers with canes with a round handle, and they took us by the neck, and they put us in 3 separate cars. Why they did it, we don't know. All the trains, all the cars was taken to Treblinka, but nobody came back, as they took a Majdanek. The second miracle, usually in the old country, we always trust and believe in the parents. Wherever they say, that's God, like God said. My uncle said, I worked as a mechanic in the ghetto for the army, and say you're a mechanic, we'll be together, all you have to do, all the range. I told them, fine. But they came to me because they asked wherever I worked in the ghetto, we'll come and ask them what they did. They came to me because I worked in the ghetto, you had to have a certificate that you're working, otherwise you would be deported. And I was the oldest son because my father was killed in the beginning of the ghetto. They rounded up 5,000 people. So I was the oldest, and I had to have a certificate that I'm working. So I worked as a presser. So happened, this 1943, they were fighting the Russian, and they needed warm clothes because on the Russian front, especially the Russian side, is very cold. So they needed tailors and shoemakers. But they came to me, I got scared, and I told him I'm a presser. So he asked me, how come a young lad like you was a presser? So I told him the truth. My father died, and I had to work to be able to support the family. Guess what? They took me with the tailors and shoemakers, 200 people from 10,000. When we went in 2004, I took my family to Majdanek, to the camp. Nobody was left. They took out in November of 1943, all of them to the forest because they couldn't get everybody to the crematorium, took them out to the forest and killed. And I'm alive today.
not even 14 and a half years old when I was born in Czechoslovakia, and this was Hungary now, which
Ukraine now.
we were not taken before 1944. April and May and June of 1944, they took over 600,000 Jews from Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, and other countries like that, okay? So, and we were taken from home to hell. From home to Auschwitz. You know what I mean? A lot of people were in camps. They were working and they were doing some work for the German government. But with us, they killed all our Jews from that part of the world in Auschwitz. In millions of 6 million Jews were killed, probably with about 3 months. The Hungarians, the Romanians, the Czechs, okay? And we were hoping that we would survive. We were hoping that this would not come because Hitler said he's not going to take the Hungarian and the Czech and those Jews, okay? The last minute, he changed his mind. So we were taken away. I was 14 and a half years old. We went into a next city because we lived in a village, but we had nothing in the village except whatever you grew, you ate, whatever the cows and the horses and all that stuff, okay? No stores. We lived in a village where you cannot imagine how you lived. But you see, we didn't know any better, so it was fine. That's how we lived in those days. I believe some places, even in this country in those days, was bad.
She had no electricity and no indoor
nothing.
plumbing.
We had nothing. Whatever we grew, we ate. We had cows and horses and all that stuff. Anyway, so in 1944 of April and May, the new law came. All the Jews were taken to Auschwitz. Okay, they didn't say Auschwitz. They were taken away, and so we were taken to the next town because we had no public transportation. They took us on wagons.
Can you tell me about the wagons?
Wagons.
Can you tell what the wagons are like and who was on the wagons?
Who was not? We were full.
Men too, or was it just women?
The whole families.
The whole family.
The whole families. I came from a family of 8 children. My oldest sister was 21. The youngest was probably 6 or 7 years old. So they took us to the next town on this wheelbarrow things. I don't even know what they call it.
Oxen-driven wagons.
Oxen-driven wagons, right. So we were in this big city where they had probably 50,000 people living, and then they did a camp around a train station. They made probably a 5 miles or more area. They separated it from everybody. You couldn't even run away because there was complete people taking care of it. And we were at the train station, and the reason we were in that place because they were shipping us away all the time. Okay, every day the people were shipped. So they finally, after being there maybe 2 weeks, I don't know how long we were there, or 1 week, they took us on the train and they sent us to Auschwitz. I don't know if anybody knows what Auschwitz is.
They all know, Mom.
Oh my God, nobody can imagine. So we got into Auschwitz, the train stopped, and they opened the door. We all came with luggage. We came prepared.
What was in your luggage?
Mostly clothes. We had no food because we were in this camp in the other place where they didn't give you any food. So there was just clothes, what we had over there, so we brought it with us, okay? And we, of course, when you travel, you don't know what's going, you take your best clothes. You're not going to take your rags, okay? Anyway, so we finally got to Auschwitz. The door opened up, and there were 3 SS soldiers.
Wait. She gets to Auschwitz, and a man comes on the train to help them with their bags.
Yes. You know that all the work was done by our own people? They would kill their own people, and they had no choice. They would see their own families being put in the gas chambers. So this man came on the train because we all came with so much luggage. He says to me, "How old are you?" I said, "I am 14. I didn't say 14, I am 14. He says, "Tell him you're 18. So he does this to the other kids also in there, and we get off, and they're separating the men and the boys, okay? The mothers, the children, anybody under 14, 13 years old, straight into the gas chamber. My mother and 4 sisters, no, 5 sisters and brothers went straight into the gas chamber. They separated us. So anyway, the SS says to me, "How old are you?"
Mangala. That would be Mangala.
Yeah, Mangala. He says to me, "How old are you?" I said, "I am 18. But you see, my sisters didn't know, my older sisters who were with me, my 2 older
Already
sisters,
selected to go to the work side.
they didn't know that I was told to lie about my age, okay?
She misses too many details now,
So,
Sandy.
stop, okay? So they said, so he tells me, okay, so my sister said, "She's only 14, she's not 18. I said, "Oh no." And I bet you I used my hand like this. "Oh no, I am 18. He let me go with my 2 older sisters. Otherwise, I would have gone with my mother and 4 or 5 sisters and brothers and straight into the gas chamber. Never saw them again. That's what happened over there. So we were separated, of course, and finally they marched us into a building. They shaved all our hair everywhere, took all our clothes, everything we brought. They sent to their own countries for the people. Because you know, when you travel, you're going to travel with your best clothes. You're not going to travel with your rags, okay? So, so they shaved all our hair everywhere, and they told us.
Who were the people that shaved your hair?
Everything was done by our own people.
That means not the Nazis.
Not
it was the Jewish people
everything.
doing
They
it.
had no choice. If they wouldn't do it, they'll shoot you. They'll kill you. And they would give us advice also sometimes, the people, okay? So anyway, so we each had a dress, a rag, not a dress, okay? And then after waiting a couple hours, finally they marched us into the Auschwitz-Birkenau Camp C. There was A, B, and C. Hungarians, Czechs, and
Gypsies.
You know, they did the same thing to the gypsies. We used to have a lot of gypsies in Europe.
About 40,000.
They used to live in the forests.
Yeah, but they were killed.
They were also killed, just like the Jews. All the gypsies were killed like the Jews. Anyway, so we go to bed. My 2 sisters and I and 5 other women ended up on the top bunk. 3 rows of bunks. No blankets. This is probably May 1944. Thank God it was May, not December. If it would have been December, none of us would have survived, because it was so, Europe is very cold. So we get up and we have coffee for breakfast. A pot for 10 or 15 people. A sip of coffee, that was the breakfast. I tried once and I never tried it again. It was horrible. Lunchtime we would get a slice of bread with a piece of margarine. Dinner time we would get soup. They would have a pot of soup and they let you take a sip. You cannot even explain how horrible it was. For 10, 15 people, a pot of soup, it was not edible. Anyway, so this is going on. And of course, the reason they put us in the holding places, because they want to send us to factories to work. That's why they saved us. Do you know all the factories were filled with survivors in Europe in those days? So anyway, and they would come to the camps. We were 30 camps. Every camp had 1,000 women. 30 barracks, excuse me. 1 barrack was a kitchen, 1 barrack was a bathroom. But sinks, cold water, and holes in the ground. We did not take a shower. There was no showers in those days anyway. For 4 months, I did not get clean. No soap at all. Because the camp that I was in, this all temporary. You come and you leave. But who stays behind? The people like me. Because they're so skinny and so helpless and all that stuff. Come to the barracks and they would select people to go to factories to work. So the first 2-3 times, each time they put me in the gas chamber line. Because after being there 10 days, I must have lost 10 pounds, okay? So we decided not to go for selection because there's 1,000 women in every barrack. And when they come for 300 people, you're not forced to go out. That was one good thing. So we went for selections 2-3 times, and each time it was bad. So we said, well, we're going to hope that the war is going to end and we're going to be liberated. If not for me, I don't think my sisters would have survived.
So I was 10 years old at the time, in 1944, in Budapest. And it started in March when the Germans came into Hungary and took over. That's when we started to wear, they started to bring in some tougher rules and regulation. We had to wear yellow stars if we went outside. and we also had to live in buildings. In Budapest, there are a lot of apartment buildings, and in the building where I live was declared as a Jewish building, where everybody was Jewish except I guess the house, the manager who managed the house. But my miracle is that I'm still alive is because in November the Germans, actually the Hungarian Nazis, it wasn't German, there were a Hungarian Nazi group which came into the house to collect the Jewish adults for the transportation. They told us, we lived in this 5-story building, to come down to the garden area, and I lived there with my mother, grandmother, and my sister, and I was 10 years old. And they separated the group to 10 years old and 10 to 60 years old, and the younger than 10 and the older than 60 in the other group. So I was in my mother's group, and they told us to go up to our apartment and get some clothing because we're gonna go to some place. They didn't tell us where to, but we heard that what's going on, and when we went up to the apartment, my mother told me to go up to the attic and stay up there until the group left. And I went up there, and that's the reason I'm still alive. After I came down, I had my sister and my grandmother, and eventually in late November we were taken into the ghetto, which was operating at that point, and we were there till January when the Russians freed Budapest, and that's how I stayed alive. So that's my miracle.
I was leading the group. My sisters would never do what I did. I would go in back of the kitchen when they would throw all the food out. I would go and find some things that I could bring back to the barrack and eat it. They said, "How can
potato peels and stuff."
Yes, things because they throw it out. That's how we survive, by having a little extra food here and there. Anyway, so finally they're coming and they need 400 people to go to Freudenthal in Germany, in a factory to work. I said to my sisters, you go and get in line, and 5 in a row all the time. And I said, make sure the next line is only 4 people, and I will steal myself into the transport. And this is how I survived. After they selected all the people, I ran into the line. And of course, we were 4 months in Auschwitz. We never had a clean. I think once in the summer I took all my dress off. All we had was a dress, and I was naked and I let it dry and put it on. There was no cleaning clothes for 4 months. Can you imagine? I mean, we had no underwear, nothing, just a rag. So
How did you go to the bathroom?
We had one bathroom in the whole place. One barrack was a bathroom. You go there. It was holes in the ground and a sink in the wall. Okay. So anyway, so here we are. I said to my sisters, go get in line, keep a place, and that's it. And they did, and I snuck in, and we are full of lice because we haven't had any cleaning. Our bodies were so full of lice we couldn't sleep at night. They kept us up. Okay. So of course, before they sent us anywhere, they shaved everybody's hair all over the place, sprayed our bodies, and gave us underwear, shoes, and socks. Unbelievable change. We're going to a factory to work in Germany, okay? I was the youngest person in that group, okay? So we were so afraid that they're gonna catch me and get rid of me, but they didn't. 300 women. We went to Freudenthal. We had 2 buildings. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We worked in a factory, and I worked the masks, guys.
Gas masks.
Gas masks for 12 hours every day. My sister Helen worked on the uniforms, and Judy worked on guns. We were there for about 8 months, because this was in the fall. We were taken away in the fall from Auschwitz. By January, Auschwitz was liberated. But 3 months before January, we finally got in this camp, so we went up to Freudenthal, and they treated us like human beings because they needed the work. The survivors were working in all factories in Germany, okay? So anyway, so here we are, and finally comes May 7th, May 6th or 7th, next, and every day they would walk us to the factory. They wouldn't let us go alone. Anyway, so I said to my sisters, something is not right. I'm gonna go, and the door was always locked. But this time, the night before, they forgot to come and lock the door. So my sister Helen says, you can't go, it's locked. Well, I said, let me try. I go. I was doing all the work. I mean, my two older sisters were afraid to do this, okay? So I said, my God, the doors are open. And then, of course, we had electric fences all around us. We were, okay? And the gate is open, and there's planes on the out coming. The Russians were coming, and the Russians came through we had a lot of cornfields behind our buildings, okay? So, and I could hear the Russian language because I could know a lot of the Russian language. And I said to my sisters, I think we are being liberated. Come on out of the building. They finally came out of the building, and we had planes going all over us. And I ran into where they have the corns, very high. So anyway, so we were liberated. The Russians were very good to us. And then finally we decided it's time to go home. It took us about 6 weeks to get home because we had to change. And all of a sudden, the whole world was very kind to us. Where was the world when we needed them? Nobody tried to help us. So we came home. All the homes were taken over by the Russians, okay? And all the people in the town, they took over. Our building was completely gone, okay? So we came home, and we were hoping my father and my mother would come home. But it didn't happen. My father, when he was in Auschwitz, he was working in a factory, and somebody came back and he told us, your father got sick, and they took him away, and we never saw him again. And then I had a brother who was also working in a factory.
He was 16.
He was 16 or 17, I'm not
16
sure.
and 17.
Right, older than me, the next kid. And so we were hoping that at least he will come back. Finally, somebody came back. We had 600 Jews in my village. 20 people of us came back. And this one man came in. I said, do you know anything what happened to my brother Philip? He says, yes. They took him into the gas chamber.
I want to ask you people, your young people, first of all, your play is in reference to a Holocaust survivor story. So here you heard actual survivor story, and how does it affect you, in your daily life now, since till the show will go on, and hopefully it will continue to be very successful. And first of all, we would like to thank you very much that you took out valuable time from your show what you are practicing, and we are thanking you so much. And I personally am thanking you that you are undertook such a difficult and project, and especially in a musical style that will be very interesting because it is very sad, and on the other hand the music will revive and bring up the best that really show that how you were living or what you went through, and you are still human being and you can cope and do things.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and I am working as the choreographer, but my grandmother was an Auschwitz survivor, Romanian, taken to Auschwitz at around the same time. My grandfather was in Czechoslovakia, and my grandmother was very quiet about it, and I actually had her tell me her stories in high school, and it was very difficult, and so I really hesitated to get involved in this project, but was brought in later in the process and knew that that I wanted to be a part of it, although it would be painful to touch on. But it has been very moving and she's passed and so has he, and it's been very moving to add my family history and my perspective and that experience to these beautiful people that have trusted me in getting to work with them. So it's a very moving process, and I feel very hesitant to give it as much gravity as it deserves. So that's what I'm working with right now.
Hi, I'm Camille. I'm playing Renia Spiegel. My mom's Jewish. My dad maybe is Jewish. We're kind of trying to figure it out. We do a lot of genealogy stuff in my family. But none of my family were survivors. They came from Russia in the 20s, so before the Second World War. And I grew up in a town that did not have a big Jewish population, so I didn't ever, and my school didn't have survivors come and talk to us. So it was something I grew up hearing about, but not in a really immediate and personal way. And so I think, getting to work on this project is really important to me, because I do feel that even, despite not having immediate family members who were impacted directly by the Holocaust, like, it's something that I feel very passionate about, like, continuing to make sure that people don't deny that this happened. And just hearing all of your stories, this is the first time I've gotten to actually hear Holocaust survivor stories in person, and I'm just so grateful, and it just makes me so even more passionate about being a part of this. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Priya. I'm the female swing in the show, so I cover the female ensemble. And thank you, first of all, for being here, telling your stories to us. I feel absolutely honored and so much gratitude to be here and to be a part of this project. I think it's incredible to hear the way that our story and connects to your guys' stories, and I want to keep talking about this and keep sharing these stories. And yes, when I have children, I will make sure to keep telling these stories, even though they're not mine. I think it's so important that people keep talking about it and truly are informed. And thank you again.
Hi, I'm Ian. So this is actually the third time that I have done a show about the Holocaust. And each time I've had the opportunity to talk to survivors. And the first time I was only about 13. So I think it was Manya was saying something about learning about all this when we're youngsters and like revisiting it when we're older. And I've already seen throughout this process how much different, like how much more it has affected me than it did when I was 13, when I maybe wasn't even able to fully process all the information. So I just think that it's not just about just like educating the youth, but continuing to have those conversations as they grow up as well. So it's not just like one thing that you learn while you're in school, but it's something that you continue to talk about throughout your life, and that I hope we all continue to talk about with our children and grandchildren as we grow up.
Hi, I'm Afra. First of all, I want to thank you guys. You're thanking us for coming and being here and listening, but we're the ones who need to be thanking you. Thank you so much. I don't know. I don't have a lot of words right now.
Hi, I'm Kai Rosales, and I play Moshe Flinker. And again, thank you so much for telling your stories. And I think something that is big in our show, and obviously like the gravity of what happened is so great, but what's so amazing to hear from your mouths is how you're always talking about it's for the future and living. And like we have so many songs, and we talked about our character, my character, he never like loses faith really. He always talks about like what's going to be after. In our show at the end, one of our last numbers, is kind of like a call to action. And Ava's song, like she literally has a lyric that's like, I want to live, and it's like, keep pushing forward. And so it's just wonderful to hear from you guys that it has happened, and like you said, it's a scar that will never heal, but you can't be stuck in it. And you have to keep educating people and moving forward. And I think that's something that we have to remember when we're working on a piece like this, is it's for other people to educate them and to let people know what happened. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Gio. I'm playing David Rabinowitz. I'm really just honored to be in the same room as you. Really, it is such an amazing opportunity to have this happen. I'm not Jewish, my family isn't Jewish, but my grandfather, he was around 15 or 16 when the war ended. And as, you know, I came into this world much later, he always made me very aware of what happened and how that affected him and how he always wanted to be a part of, you know. So getting to do the show and getting to be a part of this is not only such an amazing honor to honor what occurred and the people who passed, but it also gives me a chance to honor him. He passed away last year, so it's just, thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert, and I'm the writer who is adapting the diaries. And my mother-in-law, who's going to be 99 next month, she's from Budapest, and born in 1923. And then when she was about 13, they moved to Paris. And so they were on the run, first through the south of France and then through Germany for a long time before they got caught. And they ended up in a prison. Which when the Germans just sort of ran out of the prison and left them there when the war was over. They didn't quite know what was happening, but they were still fighting, and there were American GIs there. And my father-in-law was an American GI from Brooklyn, and that's how he met my mother-in-law. He thought she was about 12 years old, but she was so young and skinny. She was actually 19 or 20, something like that. And anyway, so my mother-in-law now has dementia. And during my wife's whole upbringing, her father would not let the kids or his wife talk about what happened during the war. It could not be discussed. But after my father-in-law passed away about 25 years ago now, my wife started to ask questions, and my son. So gradually, over many years, we got pieces of the story. And what's interesting is that when early on, when she got dementia, she could only remember stuff from way back. She couldn't remember anything present. So as she started to suffer from the dementia, she would have paranoid episodes, and people were coming to get her, and she wanted her mother, and they were chasing us, and they were, all these memories from the war came out of her mouth for the first time. And so it was very, very touching. And on my mother's side, her family was all from a little town near Krakow, and but their town was about 40 minutes from Auschwitz, actually. And so my mother and her immediate family, they got out of Poland before the war, but...
It's not Breszko, is it?
No, it's Sosnowiec or Sosnowiec.
East of Krakow?
It is southwest, yeah.
So
but it's close to Auschwitz, yeah. But anyway, as an adult, I grew up always knowing about the Holocaust, but by the time I was an adult, my mother started reconnecting to members of the family who had survived. And over the last, 30 years, I've had my mother, who's not with us anymore, but my mother and I and my sister have had a chance to meet people from all over Europe who are our cousins, who are children of survivors. We're in touch with them now. That's my story.
I know a few survivors, second gen from Sosnowiec.
Oh, you do, really? Wow.
Hello, my name is David. I really want to thank you guys for sharing your story with us. I am Jewish, and I unfortunately I don't know a lot about my history specifically, but I'm encouraged from you guys telling your stories to learn more from you guys sharing, and I think with us sharing our story, like this story through the show, I'm hoping it will encouraged a lot of other people to learn more about the Holocaust. And so I want to thank you guys for sharing your story and allowing us to obtain more knowledge so that we can continue to share this story with more people. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Austin. I have the honor of playing Yitzhak in the show. I personally am not Jewish, but my sister's husband is, and his grandmother is a Holocaust survivor. And when I was younger, I would be going up to Los Angeles a lot, which is where she was living, and sometimes me and my mom would stay with her when we just needed a place to stay when we were up in Los Angeles. And my mom has since told me all of these stories of while I was just in other rooms playing and doing different things because I was younger. My grandma would be just telling her all of these stories. She was in Budapest, and she was also in some of the ghettos there, and would just be telling my mom all of these stories. And they started writing the stories down because it was just important to her that the stories got told. And she would always say, Trisha, you have to tell my story. We worked on a workshop of this show 6-7 months ago, and I had gotten to see her since, and I told her a little bit about it, and so we were talking about her time, and we were talking to set up more in-depth meetings so that I could actually interview her when we got closer to the time. Unfortunately, she passed away just this year. She was 99. But to answer your question, I'm doing the show for her, and I'm doing this show for all of the stories of people that haven't been told, and to make sure that we don't forget their stories.
Your silence speaks volumes.
I'm a bit of a mess today. Having worked on this show for 8-9 years, doing a lot of research, there's a little bit of I have a feeling of why am I telling this story? I'm not Jewish. I wasn't raised Jewish. I don't have those connections. I wanted to learn a lot about it. It wasn't really talked about in my family as I was growing up, but it's been a big part of my life for the past 10 years. And just getting a chance to learn more about what happened and honoring those stories that we're telling and all those that we aren't telling has been quite a privilege. And I just thank you for being a part of this, for coming and talking to us and sharing your stories. It's hard. I don't know what to say.
You thought I was going to forget you.
Yeah. Well, I'm also not Jewish. I grew up with my grandparents telling me stories about their childhood. We had to walk through the snow to school, things like that. And it does make you appreciate your childhood and the luxuries of living here and having hot meals and family. And I had read and watched movies and read The Diary of Anne Frank and seen the play. But when I first came across these other diaries, the Diary of Moshe Flinker, the Diary of Yitzhak Rudashevsky, David Rabinowitz, Ava Heyman, and then Rennie Spiegel just recently, what struck me was, and was just tragic, was that I had not heard of any of them. And I felt a need to get their stories out. My grandparents aren't around anymore, so anytime around my elders, and I hear your stories, it's like being around my grandparents again. But to hear your stories and the ugly things that happened that you lived through makes this just even more important for me. It's always been an important project, but I do it for you. I do it for your families. I do this for everyone else. It's what I get out of this is just the joy of these types of experiences. That's what I'm getting out of this. So thank you, because I hope that this experience is wonderful for them, and it's going to make their performances and these memories of these children that sadly these books are not in print. They need to be. And more people need to be names that everyone knows. That's sad. Not the names that everybody knows. I don't have to name them. They're the ones that are on TMZ. Those aren't the names that everybody needs to know. They need to know your name. Ben
Midler.
Yeah, say it. We're gonna say it. And they need to know Moshe's name. They need to know Yitzhak's name. These names need to be out there. And yes, it is a musical. There are songs, and the songs are quite good. And I think that and I'm saying that because the other writers, what we did is we took each diary and we gave each diary specifically to a different writer. So that writer took a lot of, they focused on just that child. So their songs are really good. And I think that if everybody knows songs like Defying Gravity from Wicked, then they're going to know these songs too, and they're going to know their names. So I think it's an important. Thank you so much.
Let me just say thank you from all of us. We could sit here for hours and listen to your stories and just recounts of what happened. Thank you for coming and sharing these with us. Thank you for telling us your stories. And we look forward to continuing the conversation and hoping to have you come to see the show.
Thank you.